gentlemen, and welcome back to Dinozor Gaming, where we learn to be a better player. Today we have a very exciting matchup for you guys here. On the left, we have Bossk on Data Vault. Bossk, one of those leaders that has had always a little bit of the share of the meta ever since he came out in set 2. And this set, he got a lot of cool new toys, things like that new 3/3 Trooper for 2, as well as a Topple the Summit that works fairly well when you've loaded up some bounties and you have some damage going out left and right. And of course, on the right side, we have one of the spotlight leaders from Secrets of Power, Padme Amidala. Padme Amidala has been touted by many of being the new Quinlan Voss, and it is understandable why so. They have very similar abilities of dealing good damage wherever they want. Instead of being tied to the cost this time around, it's tied to showing a card from your hand or discarding one. And so you have that same ability of essentially pinging a damage on your opponent's unit on turn 1 and using Tarkin Town to finish it off. However, Bossk has the initiative here and is going to start with a pass. As is normal, you want your opponent to play a unit first so that you get to play a bounty on it and start pinging away. So that Tarkin Town becomes a little bit less valuable at the beginning, but it's still going to be able to trigger at some point. That said, we're starting turn 1 here with a quick Faith in Your Friends, one of those new cards from this set that has been very surprisingly good. Looking at the top 3 cards of your deck and drawing one, and indeed we see a Ray drawn here. Ray says when you draw it, if you have a red base or leader, you get to reveal it and deal 2 damage to a unit or a base. No units in play, so it'll deal 2 to the Data Vault, and Faith in Your Friends will need to reveal the other 3. You need to show 3 Cunning and 2 Heroism, so that's pretty much the entire hand revealed right off the bat, but you do get 2 Spy tokens. That's essentially 4/4 worth of stats on turn 1, and that is very, very hard to beat. Now that said, Bossk doesn't necessarily mind that. You get to put a bounty on one of the Spy tokens and immediately deal a damage to it, which is very good. That means that next turn you get to do the leader ability again and finish it off right away. It's unlikely for your opponent to do some kind of shenanigans to get rid of that bounty. We do see that Bamboozle in hand, and it was revealed. So Bossk does already know that information. He knows that Bamboozle is available, and yeah, it might not be the best play to bamboozle your own unit, just because you're going to give your opponent the bounty right back. He gets to play it immediately again. But if you do discard a card from Cunning, you are going up in resources. You would end up using none. Your opponent would need to use 2 resources back, giving you the tempo. That said, now what's interesting is that we see a couple of more bounties in Bossk's hand that could lead to a very interesting situation. If you do not want to bamboozle your own unit, there's a good chance that Bossk can load up all of those bounties on that Spy token and then finish it off, get a lot of triggers all in one. No, it looks like we're gonna see that bamboozle right off the bat here, giving the bounty back. We might see a redo here. It looks like a bit of an indecisive moment here. It is a very tricky situation for both players. Alright, looks like we opted to not play that bamboozle, simply dealing 2 damage to base. No real harm done. Those cards were already revealed to the opponent here, and Bossk does indeed simply kill off that Spy, gets that ramp, does not want to overdo it. There's no point adding more bounties when you know that your opponent is considering bamboozling his own unit. Now that said, the tempo is still on Padme's side here, already having dealt 5 damage on the second turn of the game. 6 damage on the second turn. That's a lot of damage. Usually at this point, you're lucky to get a single attack off. But yeah, definitely putting out that aggression, making it hard for Bossk to keep up. Even though the death mark does come down, that you're spending 2 bounties and so many actions on getting rid of tiny Spy tokens, while we're gonna see something like an Anakin deployed here for Padme, and the initiative stays with Padme, so that Anakin is gonna be able to attack for 5 here. That Ray 2 is an insane amount for a 3-drop. Indeed, we're going to start off this turn with a quick 5 damage to that Data Vault, and it is Bossk's turn to reply. But luckily, Bossk did get that ramp. You are now at 5 resources. Your leader is able to deploy here. Having dealt a single damage to that spy token makes it so you get to either finish it off with your leader, or it looks like we're going to see a High Dagger Vanguard instead to finish it off, draw a couple of cards. Opts to not trigger the double bounty on that, likely saving that for the quarry here that's on Anakin. But there's a good chance that Padme will not let that trigger. I mean, if you deploy Bossk here, your opponent is likely going to bamboozle that quarry. But even if they do, actually, you get to play the quarry right back. So I don't know. I don't think there's an easy way for Padme to deny that double claim from Bossk. Oof, so we do see that Falcon come down here, adding into that aggression, probably going to be dealing another 3 damage to that base there. And it is answered by another quarry here from Bossk. That's going to be a very deadly deploy here. Coming out is going to attack that Anakin and trigger Bounty Hunter's quarry 3 times. But no, looks like instead we're going to see a bamboozle played on Bossk, exhausting it, delaying that, that trigger here. Bossk will still be able to do what he wants to do, but it will be next turn, and while that might not sound like much, it means that the units that are going to be coming in from that quarry are going to have an entire extra turn of being exhausted and not being able to contest the board. That just might be enough time for Padme to catch up and maybe deal enough damage to win the game. It looks like Bossk is struggling here, wondering if it's worth... Oh no, it looks like that bamboozle wasn't actually played yet. Players are in decision here. That would have been a very interesting play, but there's a good chance... Yeah, okay. A lot of lines being thought through by both players here. At a competition of this level, and what I mean by competition is players here who know that their opponents are very good players. Every simple action matters. A small mistake can often cost you the game, and that is absolutely the case here. 2 of the best players I have had the honor of meeting here. And so we're going to see the turn start off with a Craving Power, opting to simply buff up that Bossk and get the triggers here instead of attacking into it, allowing you to have a big body in case they play something else that's threatening in play. Now we're gonna see 3 Bounty Hunter quarries actually triggered. That is insane here. Getting to search the top 30 of your deck. Realistically, the player should not be handling it this way, just to note, just in case that one of the cards that you play from the first dig end up doing something at the top of your deck, like an Inferno 4. But I don't think that there's anything like that at the moment in the Bossk player's deck, so it's fine. Ooh, so we're gonna see 2 Sentinels in space, putting some roadblocks in front of that Falcon, saving himself a couple of damage here from the base, and just another Super Laser Technician to go on the ground, because why not? Getting more bodies is always helpful. More ramp is definitely good. We did see some Reinforcement Walkers and some Crate Dragons in those digs, so we know that Bossk is playing some very high costs, so you're never really sad to see more ramp. Padme being a turn behind here is very unfortunate. Not being able to deploy your leader when your opponent has had it out for already 2 turns is pretty rough here. Now, by the time that Padme does come out, Bossk will likely have an answer for it. And what's interesting here is that we haven't seen a single trigger of the Padme leader ability so far. It's not really what you want to be seeing as the Padme player. And we're finally going to be seeing another Faith in Your Friends come down, looking at the top 3, finding a card. Interesting choices here. We have a Kira, we have a Hotshot Blaster, and we have an Anakin. We've already seen one Hotshot Blaster come into the player's hand and go into the resource. And the thing is, for Faith in Your Friends, you need 3 cards in your hand, so you're kind of forced to pick one of the yellow cards. This way you have exactly enough to reveal the cards, get your spy tokens, and now Padme does trigger. To note that Padme does require you to actually reveal your card, so if you had done Faith in Your Friends and found that Hotshot Blaster, you would not be able to disclose. You cannot really disclose unless you have exactly the right amount, and so Padme would not have triggered. So we see one of the starfighters get pinged from Padme and the other one attacked into with the Falcon, and even though that dagger does clean it up, this way some of those sentinels are out of the way. Tarkin Town is now available to get rid of that other one if we so wish. And we see a Spark of Rebellion come in here, and not much option here in the Bossk's hand, actually. Even though the board state is looking very, very much so in Bossk's favor, the cards that he has in his hand are not looking so great. And the death mark is sniped, so you're not going to be able to fix that hand issue very easily. Now we're finally going into that 6th resource turn here. Padme is available to deploy, hopefully get some plots here to even out the playing field, where we saw at least a sudden ferocity down there. And that's right, we're going to see that sudden ferocity played right off the bat, making that Padme a very quick, slick 6-8, matching exactly Bossk's stats here. But that Super Laser Technician is able to whittle it down here by 2. This basically shows that there is no other Craving Power or Overwhelming Barrage in Bossk's hand, because otherwise that would have been a clean kill. So now, even though you are able to attack into it with that Bossk, that Padme is going to be dishing out a ton of damage here. We have that Sudden Ferocity, and a Hotshot Blaster is now pulled out of that resource row, so it's going to be attacking here for a solid 8 damage to that base. It's unlikely for it to attack Bossk here, but it is worth a consideration, because if you don't attack Bossk here, you get the Bossk gets to place a bounty on your leader and then attack into it. So no, we're going to be doing 8 to base here, and it looks like we're going to see a clean trade, both leaders just killing each other, but already at 24 damage on the base here. That's a lot of damage. Just a couple of Millennium Falcons away. Now, looks like we're going to get a claim from Padme, and Bossk is simply going to answer with another resupply. Oof, not drawing what he wants. A lot of answers in his hands, but no real threats to deploy. You can't really win the game if all you're holding is removal. Now that board state is looking a lot more even here. If Padme is able to play something with Disclose right off the bat here. Or R2. R2 says you get to discard a card to look at the top 3. And as soon as you discard that card, Padme does indeed trigger. And so you're going to be able to finish off that Starfighter, still having access to that Tarkin Town. Very clever play here from Padme. Searches the top 3. This time you don't actually need to reveal it, unless of course you find yourself a Rey. And we see that Poe Dameron deployed. Oof. And that Bounty Hunter's Quarry on that R2 is not going to be able to do much to prevent that Poe from doing anything. However, we're going to see a lot of investment. Ooh, the entire board is indeed cleaned up here. 2 grenade strikes and an open fire. It gets the job done. But you're gonna really need to draw something really good off that quarry, because now you have nothing left in hand, and you are playing versus a cunning heroism deck, which is famous for just discarding your hand, and you know that there's a Kira in the hand here, so there's a very good chance that as the first action of the turn here, Padme is gonna put that Kira down, see what's in the hand, deny a great play from Bossk, and just run with the game there. And yep, that's exactly what we're going to see here. We have a Death Mark and a Ruthless Raider. There's no point in calling that Death Mark here. You call that Ruthless Raider. You prevent it from coming down. Actually, no, you do not prevent it from coming down. Kira simply adds 3 to the cost here. So if you do declare it, Bossk gets to play his entire turn to play that Ruthless Raider, which is actually not that big of a deal. tough decision to make here. Okay, indeed, we're gonna see that Ruthless Raider targeted. Is Bossk still willing to put in all 9 resources into dropping it? Very likely. I am because there's not much in the terms of smuggle that Bossk will have access to, so I don't see him having more options. On the other hand, Padme does actually have a lot of options in smuggle. We're gonna see an L3 smuggled out with a shield here. And indeed, for 9, we're going to see a Ruthless Raider soften up that Kira, deal another 2 to that Tarkin Town. Great play. Now with that Kira having 2 damage on it, it's not going to be easy to trade into that trooper. You would end up losing yourself, and if you don't attack into that trooper, your L3 is not going to really do much to it. That trooper can either hit into it or even just ignore it, knowing that your opponent's not going to do much. However, if you have a hotshot blaster in the row here, or you get to use that surprise strike that's in your hand, you have options of getting rid of it. It looks like that's exactly what Padme is toying with here. Is it worth using that surprise strike to get rid of the Sentinel? Or alternatively, maybe you just trade in that Kira and then save that surprise strike to hit the base. And that's exactly what we're going to see here. A quick little trade. 4 damage dealt to Tarkin Town here. And we're going to see that surprise strike smack the base for 5 here, up to 29 at the moment. Only 4 damage missing here. And shielded is a very, very tough keyword for Bossk to deal with. Yes, you're able to use Bossk's ability to ping off that shield, but in general, in the history of Star Wars Unlimited, aggression command villainy has always struggled with dealing with shields. There is not much in that color combination that can deal with it, other than penetrating shot, I suppose, but no one really plays that. And so that death mark comes down, and instead a Ruthless Raider is going to be played to answer the Cassian that was just smuggled out, and that Cassian is going to be dealing 3 damage, putting that Data Vault down to 1 left. Looks like instead of hitting Cassian, we're just going to ping off the shield there. And yep, 3 dealt to the base. I don't think there is a world in which we don't see a claim here from Bossk, and Tarkin Town is at 20, and Data Vault is at 30. 32, I believe. Yes, 32. There we go. So 1 remaining on that Tarkin Town, on that Data Vault, and the Ruthless Raider was just shy of hitting 25. Bossk was maybe hoping to draw in aggressive negotiations if he does play it. That was a very, very tight game 1, and that's it for now. And with that, folks, we are jumping into game number 2 here. The players have opted to sideboard some cards here. We'll see if that changes the matchup in any way whatsoever. Bossk very, very narrowly losing that first game. It must have been a very soul-crushing defeat. And we're jumping into game 2 here with the initiative once again on Bossk's side, and another pass so that you get to trigger that bounty. A Bail Organa is played, and Price on your head placed once again, very similar to game 1 so far. We do, however, see a TIE Dagger Vanguard drawn here from Bossk. That is a very clutch draw here this early, because now you get to use your Bossk leader ability to take that Bail Organa down to just 2 health remaining. TIE Dagger Vanguard is able to clean it up, jumping you up to another ramped resource advantage. Alternatively, you could simply use that resupply that you have in your hand, use Bossk's ability to take it down to 2, and then next turn you get the TIE Dagger Vanguard. Both great options here. It looks like Bossk is going to be skyrocketing up in resources no matter what. Now that said, on Padme's side, Bail Organa is a very good start here. You get to attack and immediately create a spy token. Yes, you do lose a card in your hand, but when you are the aggressor, you don't care that much about that. And I mean, there's no units really on your opponent's side for you to use your leader ability, but that's not really the end of the world. It looks like here Padme is making that decision. Is it worth discarding a card for a spy token? Looks like we're opting not to. No discard this time around, and Bail Organa does take that one more point of damage. We do have a Marin in hand, which is a very similar situation, allowing you to discard a card, or alternatively, we do have another Falcon if you want to start dishing out the damage. I mean, last game at this point, Padme had already put in 6 damage on the base. Quite the stark difference in the game starts. Okay, indeed, we're gonna see that Falcon come down. Never mind what I just said. Same start, already gonna have 5 damage on the base by the end of turn 2. This is, however, a bit of a dangerous play because if your opponent plays open fire, it kind of denies your entire turn. Sometimes it is a risk you have to take. To note that your opponent is on Data Vault. Data Vault does make it so the deck is less consistent in finding the exact cards that you need at the right moment. And indeed, that's we're going to see that resupply come down here, ramping him up to 4, and they're going to move on to the next turn. Oof. We do, however, have the 4-1 ambush ship here from Bossk's side. That was a valid play last turn that could have saved him the 3 damage on the base. He opted to play the more greedy route of resupplying. At least this way, this turn he'll be able to deploy his leader. And we're going to see that escort come down now and get rid of the Falcon. This way, I suppose you forced your opponent to pay the tax on that Falcon at least once, making it have cost 4 instead of just 3. We'll see if that extra 3 health on the base will end up mattering or not. And yet another ping here from Bossk, opting to save that TIE Dagger Vanguard, doesn't really want to use it just yet. Now, if Bossk deploys and attacks into that Bail Organa, that's going to ramp him up 2 more times. I mean, you might even have a Crate Dragon in play before your opponent deploys their leader. That's pretty absurd. And we're going to see a Marin dropped here from Padme. Another great tool of discarding a card, and discarding a card is so good for Padme. Most of the time you don't want to lose your cards, but if it's giving you such a big tempo advantage, Marin actually makes it so you are able to deal 3 damage on swing due to Padme's ability. But that said, Bossk is indeed going to deploy and finish off that Bail Organa and then use a Force Choke on the Marin. Ooh, the board has been wiped clean here for Bossk, and Bossk is 3 resources ahead. At this point, if any big threats are drawn, oh, we do see a Reinforcement Walker in hand. Oh, that's gonna come down this turn. I think that's gonna be enough to immediately seal the deal here. Padme is still just at 5. Oh, never mind. Spark of Rebellion here. What a great... Perfect timing on that Spark of Rebellion. A great read from Padme. Reinforcement Walker is kicked out of the hand, and that changes everything. We see that Anakin come down here, threatening another 5 damage, and it is answered by a Death Mark. We know that that Death Mark isn't going to trigger this turn, so Anakin will at the very least get a nice little 5 damage in. But Bossk does end up using their entire hand, and we see that Crate Dragon drawn. Perfect timing here, but the initiative is with Padme once again. So if we do indeed see... this is a tough situation for Padme, because if you attack with that Anakin first, your opponent can simply drop that Crate Dragon. Of course, you don't know that your opponent has that. We do have the Spark of Rebellion in hand to snipe it, but if you do Spark of the Rebellion right away, Bossk can attack your Anakin and draw 4 cards. I think this is a scary situation no matter what. Maybe you attack base for 5 first, and then you can Spark of Rebellion after your opponent draws 4. But if your opponent draws 4 here, there's a good chance you lose outright. We'll see what's going to happen. Okay, and we're going to see Anakin attack into that Bossk, and Bossk will be able to trigger that Death Mark just once. However, the Crate Dragon does come down, and when you see a Crate Dragon when you haven't deployed a single time yet, it's rough. Looks like that's it for game number 2 here. Padme realizes there's really not much you can do when your opponent ramps that much and immediately drops a Crate Dragon. So we're gonna conclude game 2 here and move on to the next one. And with that, folks, we're moving on to game number 3 here. Padme starting with the initiative for once. That was a very fast game 2, and quite the opposite of what happened in game 1. And let's see if the sheer aggression of Padme is going to be enough here to take game 3. Not opting to pass here, simply playing a unit, letting your opponent get that bounty and a trigger, but this time it is not a price on your head. It is not ramp, and that is something you were very happy to see as the Padme player after having experienced that trauma of a Crate Dragon on 5. Oof, it's rough. So we're indeed going to see yet again Bail Organa attacking for 2 and an Anakin dropped here, and this time around we are going to see that TIE Dagger Vanguard come in and finish off that Bail Organa, drawing a couple of cards. Both players are at this point just running through the motions. They know the cards, they know what to expect, they're playing fast, and this is when the game is at its best. Moving into turn number 3 here, Anakin is going to be able to start off with a quick little 5 damage here. That's exactly what you want to be seeing. Answered by just a swing at base here. I think Bossk is simply stalling, trying to see what the opponent is going to play. Ooh, we do have the ace here. One of the cool new cards from Secrets of Power coming in. It does ready the TIE Dagger Vanguard, but who cares? It's attacked and killed right away. And a Bounty Hunter's Quarry comes in here, and once again, starting off that ping, puts a Sentinel in front of the blue ace, and they're gonna move on to the next turn. At the 5 resources turn already, and we haven't seen any ramp whatsoever from Bossk. That's pretty much what you want to see as Padme. Your opponent has not been skyrocketing up in resources. You are on equal footing so far. Bossk does deploy a turn before Padme, but that's not always a bad thing. Looks like a tough decision there on what to resource. The spare the target goes away. Really not much to bounce in this matchup. You could have absolutely gotten rid of that Sentinel in the space, but is that worth spending most of your turn on? Looks like Padme says no. A little bit of some hard math there. Blue Ace is indeed defeated when you have 5 damage on it. Now, at 5 resources, Padme has the option of immediately dropping a Poe. Of course, that's what you're going to do. One of the strongest units for that cost, 6/6 for 5, has always been good ever since it came out, and it is no different here. But however, it is answered cleanly by a Craving Power on Bossk, as well as a cleanup on Anakin here to double trigger that Quarry. Once again in that state where the board is completely cleaned up by Bossk on the flip turn. This seems to be what Bossk does best, and this is part of what makes Bossk so good. Now digging 20 for that Quarry here, we're gonna see a quick little ambush in space with nothing to ambush, and of course for the second dig here, another Sentinel in space, pretty much denying your opponent space for the rest of the game at this point. We're going to see Padme deployed and immediately answered by a overwhelming barrage, and looks like Padme has said, that is enough. I can't take any more. That is it for game number 3. That is it for the match. Bossk takes it home. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you like what you saw, feel free to leave a comment, a like, a subscribe. If you think there was a play that these players could have made better, please let us know. And on that note, I will see you guys next time.